stillness of this moment, there is peace. There is peace. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace. There is peace. And I rest and trust and breathe and know that in the stillness of this moment there is peace. In the stillness of this moment there is love. There is love. In the stillness of this moment there is love. There is love. And I rest and trust and breathe and know that in the stillness of this moment there is peace. There is love. There is peace.
Good morning. I know that God is all there is. I know that in this very room there is love, there is peace, there is the divine presence of the One. That divine presence that flows through, in, and on, and as everyone, everywhere. I know that I am one with God. I know that I am loved and supported and sourced by the divine. I know that where I am, God is. Where God is, I am. And as I know this for myself, I know this for everyone gathered here today in this room. I know this for everyone gathered with us from afar. God is all there is, and we are blessed by the divine. I know that this service unfolds with ease. I know that we are provided with clarity and focus and knowing that along our spiritual path we embrace the perfection that is ours. I know that all that needs to be heard today is heard. All that needs to be shared. And I am so grateful to be standing among you, my spiritual family. Looking out, I see the face of God. When I listen, I hear the voice of God through the music, through the words. We are all in the right and perfect space. For here's where God is. Here's where we are guided by Spirit. And so I bless this time together. And I let it be. And so it is.
And that is our brand new practitioner, Pat Clark. And thank you for your beautiful meditation this morning. It's a beautiful expression of sharing your gifts. Pat came up to do her meditation. If you missed it, it's online. I encourage you to visit it because she did a combination of singing with her leading of a meditation, and it was just glorious. And so thank you. It was beautiful. So we love you. Thank you. We've got Cahill and Deline in the house today. Welcome them back. We love when our friends come to visit. We've got you back. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be squished up on stage with you today. It's really necessary. Thank you so much. And let's say good morning to Randy. All right, and I'm going to start with this week. He's still in first place, and it's down to 5. Okay, it's down to 5, and he's still in first, but we need to keep keep them there for the next 5 days,
Yes.
okay? So we're voting, again, every day. It's on my Facebook, it's on the church's Facebook, it's on his Facebook. But just let's help him get over there to the next level, because we know you can do it. So I keep calling him our hometown boy. Let's send our hometown boy to the Hollywood Bowl. And I know you're so new here and you're really not from here, but he's our hometown guy. So we're going to help you get to the Hollywood Bowl as much as we can. So I encourage everyone to do that. And good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Okay, so this is the deal. I can't see your faces because you're all in masks. So I want you to say good morning with so much joy that we can tell that you're excited to be here. Okay, again, I'm going to say good morning, everyone. Good morning. There we go. All right, we are ready for today. I'm Rev Katherine Economou, and it's my joy to welcome you here to the Center for Spiritual Living, Temecula Valley. We are an intentional spiritual community that knows that spirit is alive as our lives, and that we are guided and supported in all that we do. And that we're truly never alone. And so we come together in our spiritual family, either in the room with our masks on, over our noses, because remember I have to make sure you stay that way, so we can still meet, and through the blessing of technology, that we can still come together, and the love that is the center of CSL TV is alive in the community. And we may not see everybody all the time, we may be a little bit in rotation, some people are not comfortable coming back yet. But the truth is that this community is still so tied and connected. And we can see that from the chats on the Facebook stream. So if you are watching us from afar, please get on and say good morning, say hello, so that we can feel you in the room and that we can feel, again, together that the truth of this spiritual family in this community. And so it's in that joy that I welcome you here today. We've got a great service in store for you. We're going to start off with a flower dedication today. We have this beautiful flowering plant over here, and this is for our own love, who just walked in the door, Susan Hurst, for her anniversary. Happy anniversary, Susan. And from your beloved, by the way, it's from your beloved Craig. That's the right one to send for the anniversary, of course. And I love, he always writes AMLA, and I'm like, all my love always. I always have to remind myself what that means. So all his love always from your beloved Craig. So happy anniversary, you too.
That's cute.
I like it. Absolutely. And so with that, we have a song, I think, and I think that we're going to stand up to sing today, aren't we?
Yes, absolutely. Right. This is an interactive song, so what we're going to do is, if you're at home, the person or animal sitting next to you, just sing to them, all right? So this is called A Light in This World, and we certainly are. 1, 2, 3, 2, 3. This is one of those swaying songs. I am a light, I am a light, I am a light in this world. I am a light, I am a light, I am a light in this world. And I shine, and I shine, and I shine so bright. And I shine, and I shine, and I shine so bright. Let's do that again, that was so beautiful. I am a light, I am a light, I am a light in this world. I am a light, I am a light, I am a light in this world. And I shine, yes you do, and I shine, and I shine, and I shine so bright. And I shine, and I shine, and I shine so bright. Turn to someone and say, you are a light. You are a light, you are a light, you are a light in this world. You are a light, you are a light, you are a light in this world. And you shine, and you shine, and you shine, and you shine so bright. And you shine, and you shine, and you shine, and you shine so bright. And turn to someone else and sing, you are a light. You are a light, you are a light, you are a light in this world. are a light, you are a light in this world, and you shine, and you shine, and you shine, and you shine so bright, and you shine, yes you do, and you shine, and you shine so bright. All right, let's take it up now. We are a light. We are a light. We are a light. We are a light in this world. We are a light. We are a light. We are a light in this world. And we shine, and we shine, and we shine, and we shine so bright. And we shine, and we shine, and we shine, and we shine so bright. We shine, we shine, we shine, we shine, we shine, we shine.
Yes, we do.
Thank you. All right, so this is a time when we have our moment of gratitude. So I'm going to invite you to just settle in for a moment. Just ride the energy of that beautiful song. And look, I know, I get you. It's not comfortable to sing to someone you don't know, or even someone that you do know. But it's powerful work when we do that. We share our love and we look in the eyes of someone and just share that gift of truth. And so just breathe into this moment and settle in that experience. There's so much more energy in the room in this moment now. And just feeling that in our heart space. That thing that moves us, right? That thing that when you hear a beautiful song or you find some inspiration or you see a beautiful moment in nature, that it just moves you from the inside out. Let's move into that space in this moment and just rest there. Let us have a little bit of gratitude for the awe of life. That ineffable something that arises when we make a connection with a soul friend. That experience of love. Maybe we connect with our fur babies. Or when you see one of your children do something amazing. Maybe it's even just the sunsets that have been happening. Those glorious sunsets when the sun lights up the sky. That divine picture that God has created just for you in that moment. And so breathing in that gratitude and again allowing it to permeate through your body, expanding out from your heart into the space around you in this moment. It's as if we're setting an intention for how this day will unfold. And so on this day, the intention is to be grateful for all that occurs. And so we bless it and we give thanks for it and allow it to be. And so it is. So when you're ready, come on back. And we'll invite Pat Clark for her reading. Thank you.
So our spiritual reading for today comes from our book for the year, 365 Days of Richer Living by Ernest Holmes and Raymond Charles Barker. I am spirit. There is a spiritual body which cannot deteriorate. This spiritual body is already within you. As much of it appears as is recognized, spiritual perfection always responds to a person's consciousness, but it can only respond in such a degree as they become aware of it. It is because this inward perfection is so insistent that you maintain a physical body, but because you are an individual with volition, you can, as it were, hang a curtain between your physical life and its spiritual cause. Spiritual realization helps to withdraw this curtain. Every statement you make about your body or belief you hold about it with deep feeling, which causes the mind to accept spirit as the substance of the body tends to heal. I invite you to close your eyes and say silently to yourself, I realize that there is a divine presence at the center of my being. I let this recognition flow through my entire consciousness. I let it reach down into the very depths of my being. I rejoice in this realization. I am now made vigorous and whole. I possess the vitality of the infinite. I am strong. I am well. Every breath I draw is a breath of perfection, vitalizing and renewing every cell in my body. I am born of the Spirit. I am in the Spirit. I am the Spirit made manifest, and so it is.
Yes.
And please welcome Caitlin Deline.
All right. Well, we got a very special song for you today, and when I told Rev Katherine we were doing this song Closer to Fine by the Indigo Girls, she loves that song. So I do too, and we're featuring Barry Cahill on the Irish penny whistle today, and he's Irish, so it's very fitting. I do want to explain one thing, Closer to Fine, if you don't know the song. One of the lines is, and the less I seek my source for some definitive, I'm closer to fine. Well, the outside source. You need to look here, this inside source. That's where you listen. All right, so here we go. I'm trying to tell you something about my life. It give me insight between black and white. And the best thing you've ever done for me is to help me take my life less seriously. It's only life after all, yeah. Well, darkness has a hunger that's insatiable, and blackness has a home that's hard to hear. I wrap my fear around me like a blanket. I sail my ship of safety till I sink it. I'm calling on your shores. I went into the doctor, I went into the mountains, I wrote to the children, I drank from the fountains. There's more than one answer to these questions, pointing me in a crooked line. And the less I see my source for some definitive, the closer I am to find. Closer I am to find. I went to see the doctor of philosophy, with a poster of Rasputin and a beard down to his knee. He never did marry or see a great movie. He graded my performance. He said he could see through me. I spent 4 years prostrate to the higher mind. Got my paper and I was free. I went into the doctor, I went into the mountains, I looked to the children, I drank from the fountains. There's more than one answer to these questions, pointing me in a crooked line. And the less I see my source, the more my definitive, the closer I am to find. Closer I am to find, yeah.
at the bar at 3 a.m. to seek solace in a bottle or possibly a friend. And I woke up with a headache like my head against the board, twice as cloudy as I'd been the night before. And I went in seeking clarity. I went into the doctor, I went into the mountains, I looked to the children, I drank from the fountains. Yes, we go to the doctor, we go to the mountains, we look to the children, we drink from the fountain. Yeah, we go to the Bible, we go through the workout, we read up on the Bible, we stand up for the lookout. There's more than one answer to these questions, more than me in a crooked line. And unless I seek my source for some definitive, the closer I am to find, closer I am to find, closer I am to find.
You are guinea pigs.
Wonderful, wonderful. Oh, that was great. I love that. Randy, can you come get this for us? You can have that over there. Thank you, thank you. So that is one of my favorite songs. I was actually sharing that, if you don't know this, I did a dance program in college. I was a liberal arts major, and my senior thesis was to that song. And I choreographed this whole piece to it, and I was like, oh, do I remember it? No, I don't. Not really. But it's funny to revisit it. So I want to thank you so much. It's fun for me to revisit it because the core of that song to me was about seeking, right? Like it was about seeking. And way back then, back before I knew anything about spirituality, back when I was still going to a church that was in a foreign language, the Greek Orthodox Church. It wasn't Greek. It was Greek to me. I didn't know, I didn't know what I was looking for. There was something so deep inside me that just knew there was something greater, there was something coming, and it took me about 4 years after that to find it, which is religious science, which taught me that we don't need to go to the mountain, and we don't need to go to the bottle, and we don't need to go to the doctor, we need to go to the truth, and we need to go to the heart. And so it was so perfect that you sang that today. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you're with us. So, all right, nice deep breaths together.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm so grateful to be with you today and have a message for you that came through so powerfully this week. Our theme for this month is reaching higher. And it comes from the concept that along this spiritual path, we experience moments of unfoldment, right? That there's moments when you feel like you're in the groove, that you're expanding and you're growing, and there's a lot of ahas, and finally it's like someone has taken off the blinders and you can see yourself and you can see your life and you're moving in a good direction, and it's really exciting. Have you had moments like that?
Yeah.
Isn't it great? It's so exhilarating. It makes you want more, and you just do more, and you read more books, and you go to more classes, and you do more workshops, and you do more prayer, and you talk to practitioners, and it's all great. You think maybe I'll become a practitioner, and maybe, who knows what's, the vista is wide open of possibility. And then what happens? It slows down. All of a sudden, one day you wake up, and the sun is still shining, but it just doesn't feel maybe as smooth as it did before. Maybe you hit a little rocky patch. Maybe something comes up, a little thing that knocks you off your path a little bit, and you're like, okay, well, I can still get there. And what do? We will it. I can make this work. I still remember what it felt like. I'm gonna get through that obstacle like nothing. Ever have that one? Is that just me? That was just me? Okay. All right, but the idea is, what we're talking about this month is how the spiritual path is not linear. Right? The spiritual path is not linear. It's a little bit of a spiral. And so we can think that we are not progressing when actually you're exactly where you need to be. Because there are rhythms and there are seasons to life, and there are rhythms and there are seasons to spiritual growth. And that's why for me personally, that idea of looking at our spiritual growth and how we grow our lives, similarly to how we grow our food, how nature grows things, is helpful because there's a time, remember Ecclesiastes, there's a time to everything under heaven. So there's a time to plant and there's a time to harvest. There's a time for expansion and there's a time for pausing. There's a time for that working, but there's also a time for receiving and a time for rest. And so what I'm going to propose for us to remember this month, first of all, to give ourselves a little bit of a break, because I know that we're pretty gung-ho spiritual warriors who want to get to where we think we want to go, and we're going to do anything we can to get there. But we don't have to effort so much. We want to get back into that place where it's like we're in the zone, right? Where things just, we don't effort, we just know, and it moves, and it feels like all of life is supporting us. Well, that's happening even when it feels like you're out of sync. It's still operating, we're just out of sync to it, to that rhythm. And so the idea this month is to figure out, what's our rhythm? What is the rhythm of our life, and what part of that rhythm are you in right now? And how can you allow that to guide you to where you want to go? Again, it's not linear. It's a spiral. We spiral around, we spiral in, we spiral up. There's all sorts of different spirals happening at the same time. And so when I talk about, the theme this month is reaching higher, well, it's not about just going outside and going up, but it's how much of an expansion or expression can you be in the world? That's what higher means. How can you go so far in to know your truth that you can go broad out into the world? Because you can only go as far out into the world with your knowing as you go deep within yourself. Those roots, again, remembering a tree, those roots need to go deep. Those roots need to go out to stabilize ourselves so that that canopy can be broad. There's certain trees that you can tell how far their root systems go because that's only as far as their canopy can go out. And so you can sit there and look at those magnificent trees and you can say, okay, I can see your roots go right to there because that, and not 1 inch further, because that's as far as that canopy reaches out. And so when we talk about reaching higher, we're talking about finding a way to set the intention towards a greater unfoldment of ourselves by knowing God even deeper. So, we want to find our place in the universe. That's a little job for a month. Let's figure that out this month. How about that? You want to find your place in the universe? All right, I can help you with that. We want to push past our comfort zones and use our understanding in innovative ways to advance forward while including and benefiting from the wisdom that's come from before. How can we take that learning, all of those experiences that you have had up to this moment have brought forth wisdom and brought forth information to guide you to where you want to go? Not just to guide you where, in some direction, where you want to go. What those desires of your heart are, the pathway to it has already been planted within you. And it's just listening to it, looking for it, and accepting that. And when you can do that, then we start to move back into the groove, and sooner or later you wake up on one of those glorious mornings and you feel like you're just floating through your day and everything is aligning and you're back in the flow. Or you have one of those days where you feel like you just can't get the gears going, but you have the understanding that it's okay. Today's a rocky one. And so we're not going to get attached. We're not going to get, we're not going to belittle ourselves or abuse ourselves because you should know better, and I can't believe you're the spiritual one. You're supposed to have yourself together, and what about that? And why didn't you? Is that just my head? Okay. Maybe I'm sharing too much about myself today.
No, we've all been.
Okay, good. I know you're feeling. So we have this idea that if we're not progressing each and every moment, then something's wrong. Well, it's not. We're just out of sync with the rhythm of our lives. Maybe we're being called in a different direction, and we don't quite think we're ready for it yet. Has your life called you in a direction that you say, "Ooh, I don't know if I'm ready for that"? So what do? We put up some resistance. We put up a barrier to it. Our resistance, our old, outdated ideas of ourselves that are holding us back from the actual experience that can set us free. That's the thing I think is so insidious about resistance, is that you're right there. You are right there to step into what it is that you've been praying for, that you've been asking for prayer for, that you've been begging silently in your mind for. It's right there. But we are the ones that hold ourselves back from it. We are the ones that don't allow ourselves to put ourselves out there. I have to tell you, and I'm sorry I'm going to put the spotlight on him, I am inspired by Randy. Because you know what? Randy is going for his dream. And he has no problem putting it out there. Because you know what? He knows his worth.
Yeah.
And every single one of those people in that contest are great. I got to tell you, they're great. Now, you're ours. And I love it. And we're, but I love it. It's just like, and so ask yourself, if you wanted something so badly, an opportunity, could you do that? Could you put yourself out there and say to everybody, hey, could you help me out? Look at this. It's that step, right? Can you feel it? It's a step that you'd have to take to just, to do it, right? Well, that's a divine urge that wants to be expressed through us. And when we honor it and when we listen to it and when we allow it, then what my favorite quote that I shared last week, all the universe conspires for your good when you open to it and allow it. So the concept of reaching higher isn't one of doing more. It's not about doing more or achieving more. It's one of perceiving more. Opening to knowing yourself more. Knowing God and your growth and unfoldment comes from that. So in our questions from last week, it became clear that one of the biggest issues that we're all grappling with is how to handle living in uncertain times. That came clearly through all the questions that I got and the conversations that I had. Here we are again, living in uncertain times. And how do we use these science of mind principles and our relationship to God to navigate that better? Because that's the only way we're going to be able to navigate this better is with God. When we have God in our lives and what that presence means to you. How we cultivate that relationship. How we find it. How we feel it. How we surround ourselves with the messages that we know that are true and that we want to create what we want to live in. Because everything exists out here in the ether. And it's when we declare, when we know and we create the experience, we have to be intentional. That's my word for the week, is intentional. How can we be intentional about bringing forward the experiences that we want for ourselves and our beloveds around us? It's that simple. It's not easy, but it's that simple. So it related to the topic for today. So the theme for the month is reaching higher. My topic for today is transcendence in action. And like I said, spiritual growth is like a spiral. We go around and around, and sometimes, sometimes when I'm in my not best mind, I actually think it's more like a merry-go-round than a spiral. Right? We go through an experience, you kind of get through it, right? Maybe it's a relationship issue or a work issue or a money issue or a health challenge, whatever it is. And then all of a sudden you kind of handle it and you keep going, and then all of a sudden there it is again. Or maybe it's the same person. Have you ever had this? I've had this before where I've had a relationship with a person who has a very strong personality, and then like 5 years later they'll show up in a different body. And I'll be like, oh my God, and then they show up in another body, and it's like they say the same things and they act the same way, and it's like, wait a minute, who are you? I kind of want to get them all together in the room. So it can feel like it's a merry-go-round, but it's not. And it doesn't have to be. Let me say this. It doesn't have to be a merry-go-round, but that's up to you. It could be a merry-go-round and you could deal with these issues over and over and over again, or it could be a spiral and you can move into a greater place of understanding. But it's if we are willing to be present with the situation and mine it for the wisdom. Because let me tell you, everything in our life is there for our good. Everything that happens is there for your freedom, for your good, for your support. All right? And even the hard things. And I can say that having lived through some really hard things, I have experiences, and I know it for sure. So the idea is, how can we be present with what these situations are calling us to? Are they calling you to let go of the old ideas that you carry about yourself? That's probably it, by the way. If anyone's writing things down, that's the one to write down. Can you let go of the old limited ideas that you've been carrying about yourself? That's one of the things that all the challenges in our life are trying to have us know. Maybe it's calling you to step out in a new way. Maybe it's calling you to share one of your gifts that you've been a little bit nervous about doing. Maybe it's calling you to speak your truth in a challenging situation. And you can tell these things because they have that extra nudge to them. And that's a formal spiritual term, nudge. The Spirit nudges us forward, and then it pokes us forward, and then it boots you in the butt forward, and then it picks you up by the scruff of the neck and drops you if you don't listen to it even then. And I have a lot of nods in the room, so I know that I am not the only one who knows that this is how God works. So what's that nudge? What are you being called to look at or be present with? Because you know what? We have been trained by the sitcom to try and deal with our problems in 22 minutes. Right? Any life problem can be dealt with in 22 minutes. We have been brought up in a culture that believes that we could get it done, right? And I'm only kidding a little bit about that. We are being called sometimes to sit with where we are. We're being called to be present to what's nudging us, what's wanting to be looked at. Sometimes it can't be fixed. Sometimes it's an experience that is calling you to a deeper understanding of yourself or a deeper relationship to your life. Sometimes those elongated or a little bit longer challenges, what they do is it makes you realize how good you got it. Really. You can find some gratitude and some peace. And sometimes it takes that long for us to get out of our own way and allow God to show up in our life. But we're not going to fix it in 22 minutes sometimes. So a little bit of patience might be called for. A little bit of presence. And that's why we have our practitioners. That's why we have people who can pray with us, because you know what, when we're in that moment of difficulty and challenge, when we're in that moment where we don't know how to fix it, when we want to fix it, we want to get out of the pain, we want to get out of the suffering of it, we don't know what to do. But our practitioners can be there with you and remind you that you're not alone. Remind you that God is right there for you, because sometimes we can't see that when we're in the middle of it. But you know what? Our practitioners and our ministers can. They can know that. They can see it. They can remind us. So, the idea of transcendence. That transcendence happens when we take the wisdom from our past experiences, we integrate it, and we move forward from there. So in that spiral, when that situation pops back up, or that coworker comes back around again in another body, or your challenge shows up again, the difference is you. You are the one who will react differently to it. Maybe you won't have as much fear. Maybe you won't worry as much about the situation. Maybe you can show up and speak a little bit more elegantly, right? Because I feel like sometimes when a challenge hits me, especially in a relationship challenge, and I feel like I have to speak something, sometimes it doesn't come out as elegantly as I want it to, right? Sometimes it's not as smooth or as clear, but when our intention's in our heart and we speak our truth, that's all we can do. So maybe when it comes back around again, I can step forward and speak a little bit more clearly, knowing that I deserve to take up the space that I stand on, as do you. So that's the difference when we take that wisdom and we integrate it, when we process it. When we take the time to be present and process our experiences to awaken to the wisdom that's there for us, it teaches us about who we are and our place in the world. So I like this model of growth much better than, like what I said, the merry-go-round, but the other one that I use a lot, the other analogy I use is that sometimes it feels like we're in the wash cycle. Not the spin cycle, because that's kind of fun. I think the spin cycle would be a little fun. But the wash cycle, that you just get tossed and turned and tossed and turned, you know? And so it's when you have that feeling that the flag needs to go up. You need to say, oh, Rev K talked about this. When I feel like this, I go to prayer. I stop and remember, no, I'm not in the same place. I'm not lost. I'm right where I am, and God is right here. And I tell you, something will shift, something will change, something will show up, and it'll light the path for you to walk forward. So it takes some intention and courage to walk this path of integration and transcendence. So I heard a concept this week that I've been sitting with, and I was trying to decide if I was going to share it or not, and you'll know why. It's a statement that says the fault line is where the movement happens. Okay, now as we are sitting here within shaking distance of the San Andreas Fault, I didn't really want to share that one, because there's other connotations to it. But there's some truth to that, isn't it? The fault line is where the movement happens, where the split happens, where the disconnection is, where the movement happens to remind us that we are a whole. We are not two parts. We are not human and divine. We are the fullness of spirit expressing. And so when our lives start to shake, when the ground beneath our feet starts to move in our lives, it's time to remember that we are part of a greater whole, and that we can never get shaken off our center. We can never get shaken off from that connection to the divine that loves us. Often we want to change. We want change in our lives. And I hear this over and over again, that people come to me and they say, I just don't feel right. I just want it to be different. I just want, and I try to support and saying, okay, where do you want it to change? How do you want it to be? What could it look like differently? We settle to some degree into a complacency, though, when we are afraid of change, or a way of being that's okay or less than okay. And somewhere deep inside we long to change, but the truth is that the desire for change means that we need to change. And so what I'm proposing today is that God is the one that's doing the shaking. The greater life that you're part of is at the foundation of all, and it supports us in this life because we're living its life. Anne Lamott said, I don't understand the mystery of grace, only that it meets us where we are and does not leave us where it found us. If we accept that the divine life is the life that we're living, if we accept that God is right there with us, and we start to cultivate that relationship, and it's alive and it's organic within you, you open to allowing grace to show up. And when you allow it and you look for it, you find it. And grace is that thing that just picks you up, takes you, drops you, well, gently places you down, hopefully, where you want to be. It shows up when we need it, and its support is never ending, but we need to be awake to that support. So we're called to wake up and look around at the challenging situations and mine the wisdom of them. It's always there. It always has been, and sometimes it takes shaking, our life shaking, to get our attention. And so the question is, are you asking for the wisdom? Can you say to the situation, okay, what do you want me to learn in this? What is here for me? And then listen. But it takes slowing down to be able to do that. And so often we're just on that hamster wheel of doing and fixing and figuring out and worrying and doing and moving and no. We have to give ourselves enough time to settle and to open our ears. School's back in session, and I was fondly remembering the days when I spent every Friday in my child's classroom from kindergarten to 5th grade. I would go every Friday and volunteer. And in the later years, I would sit outside because they didn't want us and parents in the classroom anymore. And I was so sad about that. But I remember the concept of in the early grades, and the teachers would say, okay, do you have your ears open? And I remember one little kid in kindergarten going, I think it is, It's like, I think they're open. And I was like, it's open, don't worry, don't. And he was like pulling on it. He's like, how do you open your ears? Yeah. So we're called to wake up. It's about that. It's about waking up. So if we translate this concept to the big questions that we're carrying around, how to handle what's happening in the world right now, we can gain wisdom from our past and integrate it into what we're experiencing now. And so again, this week, in the build-up to the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, I was present to the grief and pain that's still alive in our country from so many of us who were traumatized by that day, and so many who had the experience that of the transpired on that day and unfolded after. Personally, I felt compelled to be present and to witness. from a new perspective the events of 20 years ago. And there have been years when I have been present to the anniversary and watched things and been, conscious of it. And there are years when my heart was still hurting. This year I felt compelled. I watched a couple of new documentaries that were really well done, and was present with a number of friends. I had a number of friends. I went to college in New York, and so I have a lot of friends and acquaintances who lost people that day. And so I was there for them, and I was trying to be present with this week. And in all the middle of this, I remembered what it felt like that day, and in those times when the world changed, right? We didn't know what was happening. Even though we were all watching everything, we were glued to the television, and we still had no idea what was going on. We couldn't understand the scope of it, the destruction, the pain, it was so horrible. And those were uncertain times. Right? So I felt compelled this week to honor those brave first responders, the amazing people who were on Flight 93, and everyone who lost their lives. I tried to really do my work to honor them. And so here we are 20 years later in another, though very different, chapter of uncertain times. I think we have an opportunity to practice what I'm talking about today, to take the wisdom that we learned from the past and begin to apply it now. And so after 9/11, our country did come together for a time in unity and solidarity. People poured out support and compassion and kindness to strangers, story after story of people from New York to those planes that were landed all over the world, mid-stroke, the stories from DC and everywhere, that people going out of their way to help one another. We were a people united in purpose, to defend our way of life, to support democracy and freedom. And we were in awe of the bravery of our first responders who ran into danger to save others, sacrificing themselves. And so we honor and we remember. So I found one story that was a new story to me that I wanted to share with you today. And so this is a story of Lieutenant Heather Penny, whose call sign was Lucky Penny. She was the first female F-16 pilot at the 121st Fighter Squadron of the DC Air National Guard, and was at Andrews Air Force Base when her squadron learned the planes had already struck the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. Word quickly came in about a fourth plane heading towards Washington, and although the jets were only armed with dummy bullets for training, it was determined that someone had to fly now. Penny, who was 25, says that the plan became apparent immediately. We wouldn't be shooting it down. We'd be ramming the aircraft. We had to protect the airspace any way we could. So Penny grew up around planes. Her father was a fighter pilot in Vietnam and a commercial pilot afterward. And she got her own pilot's license while she was in college. She was planning to be a teacher until Congress opened up combat aviation to women in 1993. I signed up immediately, she said. I wanted to be a fighter pilot like my dad. She was still a rookie when the news came in about the attacks. And after receiving the authorization to fly, Penny and her fellow pilot, Colonel Mark Sassville, struck an agreement as they headed to the jets. He would target the cockpit, she would target the tail. Unlike today, when armed planes are stand ready at all times, no jets were armed and there was no time to ready them. Penny remembers, I genuinely believe that was going to be the last time I took off. If we did it right, this would be it. So ultimately, Penny and Sassville did not have to ram the plane. Instead, the brave passengers of Flight 93 downed it. The real heroes are the passengers on Flight 93 who were willing to sacrifice themselves, she reflects. I was just an accidental witness to history. Following the crash, the two pilots spent the rest of the day clearing the airspace around Washington, including escorting Air Force One back to the city. She went on to fly in Iraq and was promoted to major before retiring. But she still insists that she is not a hero. I've been called a hero for what I was willing to do, she wrote in a Washington Post op-ed. The truth is, any one of us would have made the same decision, would have been willing to do exactly what I was prepared to do, and what the passengers on Flight 93 did. Why? Because there are things in this world that are more important than ourselves. So, this is why I wanted to share this. And she says, in reflecting on the events of that day, she further observes this. I've come to realize that heroism isn't something unique or possessed by only a chosen few. The courage is there inside of each and every one of us. And to each of us, she urges, let us never forget. But perhaps more importantly, let us remember that there are things in this world more important than ourselves. That we all belong to and are part of something greater than ourselves. That our connection is more important than our differences. That inside each and every one of us is that courage and heroism that we were blessed with witnessing that day. That these are not unique and extraordinary qualities, but instead are common and all around us every day. And so my best prayer for us in this moment is that we can take the wisdom from the past, that we are stronger together than apart, that we have more in common than what separates us, that listening and being present to the experiences of each other can forge bonds and connections that can heal division and hatred. I want to leave you with this. This is a quote from an author named Taylor Rhodes. He said this about 9/11. He says, instead of mourning, instead of a moment of silence or a hateful message, how about today we make the world a little brighter? Be kinder. Be a little gentler with yourself and others. Be a better human. Today is more than a tragedy. Today is a birthday. Today was somebody's birthday. Today was somebody's wedding. Someone was born today. Someone got a new job today. Today we take this day back for the happy and the brave and the new. So as we honor and remember what happened 20 years ago, let us not waste this life. Let us live fully. Let us love freely and celebrate this gift of life that we have. Because you know what? Any one of us could have been on those planes in the mornings. Everybody's got stories of people that they know who either had close calls or who lost beloveds. But we have the gift of life. We have the opportunity to create something beautiful for ourselves and for each other. And so community is so important. And let us remember that as we step forward, that we really truly can make a difference when we allow God to move through us and to live fully as us. And so in this way, we can reach higher from that place of the soul, and we can witness transcendence in action, because that's who you are. And so it is.
We chose this next song because, as Rev Katherine alluded to, this is the 20th anniversary of the first 9/11, the day the earth kind of stood still, right? And, you know, one of the things that I was really struck by on that day was just, in spite of everything that happened, this still is a really wonderful place. This just an amazing planet, an amazing civilization we live in, and we should take stock and be grateful for that. So this is called "What a Wonderful World."
1, 2, 3, 4.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright pleasant days, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, for the people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? What they're really saying is, I love you. I hear babies cry. I watch them grow, feeling so much more than I ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? What they're really saying is, I love you. I hear babies cry, then I watch them grow, feeling so much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great. So this is a time of our service when we have the opportunity to participate in sacred giving. So I'm going to invite our ushers to come forward and say thank you to our volunteers. We're building our volunteer teams back. So if you are called to come and play with us on Sunday, we are grateful and excited for that with our ambassadors. We're trying to put together our youth and family team. So if you are ready to kind of step up and support, please come talk to me. We're excited for that. I want to say thank you to everyone who has continued to support the community. Again, you know, the summertime is an interesting time when people are traveling and we're still trying to figure out where our whole community is out there in the ethers here. And so I just want to lovingly and joyfully remind you to and request that you keep the center in mind in your travels and in where you are. And so if you are still visiting us just online, there's a couple of ways that you could support us. You could pop over to the website and hit that PayPal button there, the donate button, and it'll take you to PayPal. You could call the office and we could take a credit card for you, or you could mail in your offering, and the address, I believe, is in the chat. And we are just so grateful to be starting again. Right? Like, this is the thing that I'm just getting week after week. We look different than we used to. It feels a little different than we used to. But the love that's at the center of this community and that message and that inspiration is so necessary and needed right now. And so we're so grateful to be here and to be starting and to start over again. And so just doing that together feels really great. And we can do that when we all pitch in and we all lean in to do that. So I invite you to take your offering and place it upon your heart, and let us breathe our light and our love into it in this moment, knowing that this is a gift of the divine. It has come to each of us as that divine abundance, and it moves through us out into that which we want to see grow. we give to that place that we want to see expand, to see deepen, and to participate in, knowing that as we give spiritually minded, it allows us to move into that place of the flow of giving and receiving, and we open our arms to receive more of the abundance of the infinite as we allow ourselves to be a channel of that divine abundance in the world. And so I bless this offering and know that it goes to support the ministry, the light that wants to shine brightly as CSL TV out into the world. And it guides and supports us. And this is the truth, and so it is. Amen. So please join me in saying our affirmation of abundance together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am prosperous now. Yes.
God is my source, God is my power,
God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need.
love is my source.
Love is my source. Love is my power. Love gives me everything I need.
Everything.
So I give thanks for all my blessings. Love gives me everything I need.
Peace.
Peace is my source. Peace is my power. Peace gives me everything I need.
Everything.
I give thanks for all my blessings. Peace gives me everything I
Please
need.
have a little saxophone. God is my source. God is my source. God is my power.
God gives me everything I need.
Everything.
So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I
Okay.
All right. So I've got some announcements, and then we have a special presentation today. So our announcements this week. So our book study is going to start again on September 29th. We're putting the information together and finalizing the book this week. And they're going to start on Wednesday, September 29th. Again, as we say every week, our men's ministry meets every Wednesday. It's a really great group. So for our gentlemen, if you are wanting to make some connection, please talk to Reverend Michael. That has been an amazing ministry over this last year, and they are a really solid, tight, fun group of guys, and I encourage you to participate. Our Sisters in Spirit group is meeting on the first and third Thursdays of the month. One is on Zoom, one is in person also to go out to breakfast. And so you can connect with Pam Migliosi about that. And we are running our CSL TV Community Connection. Now, I'm usually doing that. My back went out this week, so I was not able to be back on. But our Community Connection is a time online on Zoom on Wednesday evenings where we take the message from Sunday and go a little bit deeper with it. We have a time of open discussion and sharing and ideas of how to actually do the things that we're suggesting on Sundays. And then we end with a really nice deep meditation. So I encourage you, if you're called to join us on Wednesday night, it's fun. Our food donations for Community Mission of Hope, as I've said, I put a big goal out that we donate 2 tons of food by the end of the year. So thank you for those who have been starting to bring food back in on Sundays. If you've got something in your pantry, you can just throw it in, non-perishable foods, throw it in a bag, bring it on into the office on your way in, and it's delivered to the Community Mission of Hope. The other thing that I've started working on this week is I'm communicating with the Interfaith Council about how we can be of support to any Afghan refugees that are coming into the area. And so there have been 15 families. There's the San Diego Afghan Refugees Aid Group. And I'm trying to connect with them to see exactly what they need. They have 15 families as of Friday that they're supporting and resettling in San Diego. And we're trying to figure out if their needs are just financial or if their needs are for goods also. And so we're trying to figure that out. And I will share that information as it comes in. The other thing, as I mentioned, we're trying to get our youth programs back up, and so we're looking for that right and perfect person to step in as our youth director. That is a paid position, and to create an opportunity for our children, and we're looking for some teen support also for our teen group. And so if that is something that you're called to, if that's something alive in you and a joy for you, please come and talk to me about it. We would love to. Really, I want it back, right? I want the laughter of the kids waiting outside, trying to be quiet when they're not supposed to be, you know what I mean? Like, I miss that. I miss our kids. I want our families to have the opportunity to come back as they're ready, and so we need to all do it. Unfortunately, I haven't figured out how to split myself yet. I'm trying, but I can't. So we need some help. The other thing is this: I want to let you know that we've had a shift in our staff. Our administrator, Diane Keys, is no longer with us. She was with us for 7 years. We're so grateful for all of her help and her support, and we bless her on her next adventure. And that is a space also that we have open that we're moving into, reshifting and arranging that position a little bit. But if there's someone that you know who's ready and a great administrator and is a whiz on all those computer programs that I don't really know, let me know, because we could use a little bit of help. And we're very sad that Diane has taken the step. She's such an integral part of this community, and we know that God always fills a vacuum, and so something is growing and expanding here, and so we're happy about that. All right, and so I think that's all I got for announcements. My peoples, am I missing anything? Did I forget anything? No? Okay. All right, so we have a really lovely, today's a lovely day in the life of the center. We are going to welcome our new practitioners and install our new practitioners. And before I start this, I'm going to ask my lovely assistant here, could you please go and get Jim in the office? He needs to be back for the second part of it. Okay? All right, so this is one of those exciting moments for our center. As Senior Minister of CSL-TV, it's my honor to preside over this important celebration. It's a beautiful thing for a spiritual community to birth practitioners. And this is a joyous moment in the life of this center as we welcome 3 new practitioners to our team. So Ernest Holmes, with his vision and through his writing, lit the torch of religious science as he shared the science of mind philosophy with the world. Those who have carried its sense believe in the same principles which we have declared as our own today. They knew, as we all know, that the principles are impersonal and universal, that they work for all without exception. And there is good reason to celebrate today. The installation of those who carry the torch and declare the principles as well as illumine consciousness, train minds, open hearts to those who come to CSL-TV. And so today we are going to welcome another generation of leadership, those who by their willingness will add to the already vibrant experience here at the center. So, members of the board, licensed practitioners, members and congregants of CSL-TV. I have to be formal about this part. We are gathered here today to welcome 3 new beloveds as licensed spiritual practitioners of the Center for Spiritual Living. And so I will invite them to come forward. Pat Clark, Sylvia Uribe, is actually with us, but from afar. So Loris Moxley is our practitioner from afar, and she's in Sequim, Washington, but she's actually our Facebook host today. So Loris, we welcome you into the room also. So Sylvia, Pat, and Loris. This journey took a great deal of commitment on the part of each of you. 2 years of prerequisite classes to qualify to apply for the professional practitioner class. Once you fulfilled the requirements and applied and were interviewed and accepted, the professional practitioner licensing course through Centers for Spiritual Living was 2 full years of study. So each of these beautiful spirits has dedicated the past 4 years of their lives at a minimum to the study of science of mind and the practitioner licensing requirements, and some it was 20. Wow. Finally. But there's all good due time, as we saw today. I want to honor you for that because you kept at it. That's why I'm not calling you out. I'm honoring you for your persistence in this. And what a journey this has been for each of you in your own unique way and process. In addition to the study, the homework, the papers, the tests, the service hours, and daily spiritual practice. You have all had innumerable aha moments, private breakthroughs, and incalculable personal growth. Even those moments when you wanted to throw it all out the window, including me, they had them. The heart and soul that you bring to your work as practitioners is both deep and broad. But what I really want to emphasize today is the life path you have chosen to commit your lives to, this spiritual path, a life connected in each moment to God and knowing it not only for yourselves, but for all of us. We are blessed. As a practitioner, they have made a commitment first and foremost to their own spiritual path and to sharing it with others. Every one of us is an individualized expression of the presence of God with each other and in our unified awareness. We share our experience of the divine, who you are, what you say and do within the context of this spiritual journey together serves to inspire and empower yourself and others in realizing and expressing our divine potential. So as a participant in the spiritual journey, in particular as a licensed practitioner, you have the opportunities to become increasingly aware of the power and presence of love that indwells us all, and to live and act from that awareness. As you become licensed practitioners in thought, word, purpose, and action, you are making a public declaration of your belief in the principles of the science of mind and of this center. This is an outward expression of an inward commitment to yourself, this teaching, this spiritual community, and all of humanity. As you practice these principles in your life, you are participating in the transformation of the consciousness of the planet and living the vision of Center for Spiritual Living Temecula Valley, which is that we are a thriving spiritual center embracing connection and joy. And our purpose is simple. Our purpose is love. As it is said in 1 Corinthians 16:14, let all you do be done in love. As you become a licensed practitioner, the experience of everyone is deepened and expanded into a greater good. For as you enter into a new life of service to humankind, to life itself, and to God, you consciously become one with the very spirit of the divine presence. And the obligation placed upon you is the obligation you place on yourself in the fulfillment of our shared vision and purpose. Your commitment is in your own heart and mind, and I trust that you're confident in your heartfelt commitment. I know these ladies really well. They are. And so I'm also going to ask all of our licensed practitioners to come and line up in front of the stage here, because we are going to do not only the installation, but a rededication of our prac team. And so we're going to switch places. Come on. We're going.
Move as fast as we're used to.
All right, friends. Okay. So I'm joined by Reverend Michael, my assistant minister here, to hold the space and welcome our beloveds. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry. I'm going to move over a little bit. So I can do it from over here so you can see them. You want to look at them? Not me. Okay. All right, friend. Well, you have to see me. You can see me. Okay. All right. So becoming a licensed practitioner is not about having all your issues handled. It means having the consciousness of oneness and a depth of spiritual intelligence and wisdom to know how to use the spiritual tools with a degree of mastery. These beloved ones have a relationship with Spirit that nurtures and sustains them. They know the truth about themselves and know the truth about all of us, and we are grateful. So as practitioners of this center, you shall act in the following capacities to fulfill this role. You serve along with the ministers as the healing arm of this center. You participate in the ecclesiastical aspects of Sunday service, including conducting meditations, holding vigil, spiritual readings, and prayer. You shall provide affirmative prayer, spiritual mind treatment, for all those who come to you requesting support. You may serve as a spiritual counselor on a fee-paid basis, providing compassionate listening and prayer for those seeking assistance. You may serve as a teacher and teaching assistant of all classes, accredited and non-accredited. You may serve in all aspects of ecclesiastics, participating and at times conducting spiritual services. You will work in partnership with the board and ministers in leadership of this center. And so here is your charge. So you get to answer it, okay? Do you accept the principles of the science of mind and promise to adhere to them and make them the basis of your teaching and prayer work? Do you accept and support CSL's global vision in consciousness and in action? Do you so consecrate yourself to this ministry that you will do your utmost at all times to reflect the highest of God's idea for this center in all that you think, say, or do? Do you promise to perform daily spiritual practice so as to remind yourself of the indwelling presence of God in you and in all of life? Do you so dedicate yourself to be constantly aware of the spirit within all people and to see only the perfect spiritual person, perfect in mind, body, and in spirit? Do you promise to support the ever-expanding vision of this center? And do you so dedicate yourself that you will constantly be aware of opportunities to experience yourself as a conduit for the fulfillment of that vision? Will you support me as a senior minister of the center in what you think, say, and do, and working side by side with me in the fulfillment of the vision of the center? May the infinite spirit who empowers you to do all these things grace you with the strength to faithfully perform the same and to live the vision of this center and the global vision of Centers for Spiritual Living. All right, so for our community here, you are the voice of this community. You have a part to play. Do you accept these individuals as practitioners of this center?
Yes.
There you go. Okay. All right, one more part and we're almost done. All right, so I'm going to come stand next to me. All right, so in religious science, it's become a practice to present our licensed practitioners with a stole that symbolizes the sacredness of the office licensed practitioner and the depth of their commitment to God. The teaching symbol for the science of mind is embroidered on each side as a reminder of the allness of spirit, God as love, law, and form. Altogether, it represents the creative process that we participate in with every breath, consciously or unconsciously. Practitioners truly do know that our thoughts create our experience, and when the stole is worn, you can be assured that the practitioner is ready for sacred service. And so, Sylvia, it is my honor to present you with your practitioner license. It says Practitioner of Religious Science. Be it known through its Leadership Council, by virtue of the authority in it vested, has authorized and hereby grants the recognition of Practitioner of Religious Science to Sylvia Uribe, with all honors, privileges, and obligations thereto appertaining. This recognition is made at Golden, Colorado, and is in full force and effect on the first day of August 2021. Officially licensed as a practitioner of religious science. And Loris, I have yours for you. All right, so through the authority vested in me by the Center for Spiritual Living Temecula Valley as a covenanted member of the Centers for Spiritual Living in Golden, Colorado, I lovingly welcome this team here and now as practitioners for the Center for Spiritual Living with all of the rights, privileges, and obligations appertaining to this office. And so it is. Great. All right, so we are going to pray, because that's what we do. So I invite you to, so Randy, come on up. Pointing at you. So we are going to close our eyes and just move into that space together. Taking a breath and just celebrating this moment. Such a powerful moment in the life of the center to welcome new practitioners. For this is God in action. That divine light, that divine call that has called each one of these beloveds to this work, to do all that needed to be done to prepare themselves to be a light unto the world. And they are now a light unto each and every one of us. What a blessing they are, how blessed we are. And so I know that this is that infinite divine source of all life that we call God in action. That spirit of love, of peace, of wholeness, of potential and possibility. that infinite abundance of the universe. It is all God, and it is here in this moment, in this word, and this team knows it. Each and every one of them taking the time to remember God in every breath and every day, and speaking the truth for all of us. And so it is true for each of us, because anyone who practices the science of mind is a practitioner. I know that we step forth from this day with our eyes open to the grace and the love and the light of God as it shows itself, to the wisdom of Spirit as it reveals itself in those high moments of awe and in those challenging, bumpy, rocky moments. I know God shows up for each of us, bringing forth all that we need and more to fully and freely step into the fullness of our being, to share our light and to create moments of peace, of connection, of harmony, and of joy. And so on this day, I bless it, I celebrate, and I give thanks for the opportunity to see and to know God so powerfully expressing itself here. And with a grateful heart, I surrender my word and allow it to be. And so it is.
There was a time in my life I thought I'd have to do it all for myself. I didn't know the grace of God was sufficient, didn't know the love of God was at hand. But now I can say, if you are discouraged, struggling to make it through another day, you gotta let it go, let it all go. And this is what I have to say, and I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm lonely, oh God. And no more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only, oh God. And I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only, oh God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only, oh God. I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only, oh God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only, oh God.
And as we step forth in this week, we reach higher and allow transcendence to happen. And so it is. Take care.